All right. So we're back here once again on Commanders in the Chat, episode 60, a victory post game edition of Commanders in the Chat. What's going on, Rob?
Another three game win streak in the books. This is now Ron Rivera's fourth three-game win streak since he's been the coach of the Commanders. Second this season, and we're sitting at 7-5.
Yeah, we're sitting at 75, and as we are broadcasting you live here on a 8 o'clock in the East, 5 o'clock Pacific. Who's the seventh seed in the NFC if the season ended today? It'll be our Washington Commanders.
Yeah,
So thank you, Las Vegas, for that great win in Seattle to push us to that seventh spot. And yeah, man. So once again, we had episode 60, the Chris Samuel edition of Commanders in the Chat. Once again, great win this week. The Commanders win by a final score of 19-13. It's sort of a yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, hey, I'm not going into that because we got to play that team next week. So I'm gonna I want to give them soundbite information, but shout out to Ken. But I'm not gonna give that fan base bulletin board material.
exactly.
To say the least. So I'm not gonna indulge in that trash talk. So in the midst of all this, obviously we talked about the great win and all this everything that's going on. This 3-game winning streak, winning 6 out of the last 7 games. This team is just finding opportunities to win football games, but it's always something about this team where we just missed the mark in so many ways outside of the field. And it's funny, and that's like me and Rob, and we're literally like kindred spirits in a weird way. Because I had because you know how something like I don't know for some odd reason we talked about the Sean Taylor statue, and at first I was like, I just need to think about the day. Obviously, today is the 15th anniversary of Sean Taylor's passing,
Yep.
but to see what we thought was a statue was pretty much a mannequin in my mind, because I was like, a lot of times that's why I don't go on social media, because that's just how I roll sometimes, especially like during the game. But then like when we hit each other up during the game, it's like, what was your thoughts on the statue? I'm like, whew, like, you mean the mannequin?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with you first, Rob. Just your thoughts on the Sean Taylor's the statue, the de facto statue that was allegedly reported.
Only this franchise, only this owner can find a way to screw something up for Sean Taylor twice. The first time it was rushed because of all the off the field stuff with Dan Snyder, the investigations, all that stuff. They rush it to kind of make that the headlines for the team. I mean, that's pretty much been confirmed at this point through people who are close. I think JP Finley has reported it from somebody up. And I could be wrong about JP Finley exactly, or Kevin Sheehan, one of the two, rather than saying they talked to somebody high within the organization who said at the time, like, yeah, it was just we kind of rush it just to get the heat off of the off the field stuff. So they had a chance to do it again, and they botched it so bad. They've been marketing it as a statue for the better part of, I think, last couple months, saying, the statue, Sean Taylor statue, we're gonna do it right this time. And you bring out this Forever 21 mannequin, this thing you put out in the front window of a Macy's, and it was just so lackluster, and it wasn't even the right jersey. Like, they kept, I do like that as much as I hate the old name, I do like that they kept with the old helmet and the jersey with the old name on it. I understand why they did that, but he was not alive for the Nike era of the NFL. So they got the Reebok pants, but a Nike jersey, which to me made no sense. Um, I hated it. I hated every bit of it because it just seemed like it was just kind of thrown together once again. You could have at least made it somewhat unique in, I don't know, maybe tape up the face mask because he was very notorious for that, for putting the tape all over his face mask. But it's just they screwed it up again, and I'm convinced that as long as Daniel Snyder is the owner of this team, they cannot get anything right. And I even texted you about this, and I think I tweeted it. This just goes to show how broke Dan Snyder is, in my opinion. I believe this was because he has no money. Because the way we see other teams spend money on players, you look at the Patrick Mahomes deal, 10 years, $500 million. I think right after that, they had re-signed Travis Kelsey and made a few other contract extensions, and everybody asked like, where do they find this money? Because of the salary cap. It's because most of their money is an upfront guaranteed money signing bonus. You get that when the owner actually has the money to pay that out. Daniel Snyder is hard to get deals done with this team, I believe, because he does not have the money for signing bonuses. So you have to start looking at the cap and really thinking about how you're going to be able to stay under the salary cap every year. The fact that he has no money, no disposable income for something like this, not for players, and I think it was because, I think this is why we got this mannequin, is because he didn't have money to pay for a statue outside of the stadium like Sean Taylor deserves.
Yeah. Um, and you know what's funny? What's crazy about all this? So obviously, we came on air. We did the show Thursday, but we pre-recorded, but we did the when we did the filming of the other podcast for the preview of this matchup. I don't know for some odd reason when because we this was kind of one of the storylines that we brought up during the preview as far as the statue and all that. But a part of me, I don't know. I almost had almost like a unlocked memory of like context clues, like what you learn like in the third grade, because the wording of it was like memorial statue. So it's kind of
Yeah,
like normally when you hear like statues, you just it's a statue, it's but the whole memorial statue kind of made me think like, all right, what's this really going to entail? But like you said, and honestly, and this is kind of one of those things like and I'm glad you took it there with the Forever 21 mannequin because it's probably the same mannequins that they use on 2222. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if those
yeah,
are the same mannequins from 2222 when they was advertising in New Jerseys.
you're probably right.
And it's ridiculous. It's to a point where, and I understand, like, and this is just coming from my perspective as well, too, where when I think about statues, I'm thinking of a statue that's going to be bronzed or whatever, actually the person body, at least a face or like, something, oh, even something like in like a Canton type of bust.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking. So part of me is like that mannequin is like it's it doesn't even have a face. Like, so it's almost just like it's to a point where I just think this was just another one where it's just like they missed the mark. And I understand, like, people, have mixed reviews about it, but I know me personally, that's disappointing. Like, it's to a point where this is something that and I know I've heard people go back and forth and say, well, because we could be moving in FedEx in 5 years. I'm like, and what's the point? Like, even we was moving in next year, that can be moved. Like, and I'm, and me being in Richmond, Virginia, where we just had monuments and statues being removed, they can be removed and put in other places. This is we know, and that's always going to happen. Even when there's the new stadium, when that one is, you know, done, it's gonna have to go to another stadium anyway. So it's like I hated that argument when people were saying that, but it's just disappointing. Like it's to a point where it's a mannequin. Like when I think about a statue, I think of what I've seen in the past. Like, I've only been to a few stadiums that had them, but they were in bronze or whatever other color, other type of finish. And they were a depiction of the person, their facial features, certain attributes. Like I remember, like when I went to Staples Center, they had statues of Shaq, Magic Johnson. What's your boy? What's the boxer? Oscar De La Hoya, Chick Hearn. So it's like I'm used to seeing that, and even like with Ray Lewis when his statue in Baltimore. So that's why I'm like I hate that this happened today, honestly, especially considering the fact the day of the anniversary of Sean Taylor's death.
Yeah.
I think this was just really disrespectful, and it's to a point. It's sad because I could give a pass if this was an owner that didn't know Sean Taylor.
Yeah.
If this was like the new regime, I understand it. But you were there. You were there on his deathbed, like
Yeah.
literally, like you flew down to Miami the moment it happened. And for you to sit there and kind of have what I call a half-ass tribute, in my personal opinion, it's disgusting. It's just to a point where, and this is why people don't understand, like, who wants to play for this franchise?
Exactly.
Who want to play for this franchise? Who want to give their blood, sweat, and tears and all their livelihood and their health for an organization like this who gonna give you something like this? And there could have been other things that I think they should have done. They could have even, and even to your point where, like, because that obviously they unveiled the Sean Taylor collection. I think might have just been appropriate what Ryan Clark was wearing. I don't know if you've seen. They had Ryan Clark. He had this Washington Commanders. It's like a 3/4 zip jacket and
Uh,
21 patch. And I think they should. I think everybody should have wore that today. I think that would be more poignant than having a mannequin.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
like all of Commander's Twitter is fierce about. I haven't seen anybody say anything good about it. Um, but it's one of those things that I'm trying to think of how to explain it. The locker. I've been to FedEx Field once, and I remember going, and I went straight to the Sean Taylor locker they had out in the concourse. Um, that was more of a memorial than this. And again, to screw it up twice, it's an embarrassment. Good thing we won today, because if we lost, and again we won the game, thanks to a Seattle loss, we're now the 7th seed. If the like you alluded to earlier, the playoffs started today, or if the season ended today, Washington would be the 7th seed, traveling to Minnesota, getting another crack at them, which I've been saying I want.
Me too.
And we're sitting here talking about another failed Sean Taylor memorial. It's just embarrassing.
Yeah. Big time. Yep. And shout out to our guy Mo. And he right. I mean, yeah. And it's almost like it's funny. It's like a Twilight Zone. Because I think we all three of us had the same conversation a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's so funny, like where it's like we had like this situation October the 17th of 2021. Like we've had the same conversation, and it's almost like it's revisiting itself over again. And yeah, it's embarrassing, especially like you said. Luckily, we won, and that's crazy how how winning. This is the quintessential example of how winning cures everything. It's the greatest deodorant because, like you said, Rob, we was like 1-4, and this happened. This would have been the bigger story than the actual game itself.
Yeah.
And it's just hey, you just this is a case study of when people say winning cures everything. This is the perfect example of that saying. It's not it's not just a saying. It's the truth. It's and it's definitely our reality now. With this Watch the Commander scene, but you know it's to a point where either you're gonna win off the field or you're gonna win on the field. Yeah, that's how it is with this team. Yeah, I don't think we can never win on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, but March will be here soon, so how
Yeah.
well, hopefully that this sale will be done by then. But hey, but yeah, so. All right, well, 15 minutes in, I guess we'll actually talk about the football game that actually did happen.
Yeah,
So,
we did have a football game today,
yeah, surprisingly, yes.
believe it or
So,
not.
believe it or not, yes. So, Washington Commanders did win the game 19-13 over the Atlanta Falcons. As we mentioned earlier, the Commanders now are at 7-5, winners of 6 of their last 7 games. And then also, if the playoffs ended today, this team would be in the playoffs as a 7th seed and would potentially set ourselves up for a historic NFL history mark where every team in the NFC East would be in the playoffs, all 4 of those. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I want to be a part of that history. And it's just like it's there. It's at the grass. We now, knocking on the doorstep of December. So, your thoughts on this Falcons win?
It was an ugly one once again, but that's how this team likes to win games. They don't like to just be dominant. Even the Houston game last week was pretty ugly. But at the end of the day, this isn't college football. Style points don't really matter. It's your record, and right now the record is good enough to be in the inside look. Be on the inside of the playoff bubble, with a relatively a pretty a good enough schedule that can put us in a position where we could see ourselves possibly a 6 seed. If the chips fall, if the ball bounces our way a little bit, we have the Giants twice in the next 3 weeks. We have them coming up this Sunday, which we'll get into in a little bit. Go on a bye week and then have them right after that. So we have this week, and then have the coaching staff have a 2 weeks to prepare for them once again. So I look, can this team do damage in the playoffs? Maybe a game, depending on the matchup we get. Can there be a little Heineke magic? Maybe a deep playoff run. We've seen crazier things happen, but I mean, Nick Foles came in and led the Eagles to a Super Bowl run, given they were a much more complete team at the time. But getting this one, this was a big part of it. They were right behind us. The Falcons were. They were right behind us in the seeding. They were ninth, with a chance to win the game at the end there until I think it was a Deron Payne got a hand on the ball, tipped it with the Kendall Fuller interception. This team just fights, and I text you that right after. Like, this team just fights. They don't stop. They're very much a bend don't break kind of defense. Give up a lot of yards today. Give a lot of yards on the ground, which I didn't like to see, because that's the strength of our defense is the run game. They're stopping the run. Give up a lot of yards. I had it up. We gave up 167 yards total rushing between all the people that carried. 5.8 yards per carry. Cordell Patterson and Algeria just torched our defense, but they came up clutch when they needed to. Montez Sweat, key sack on that last drive, and just they fought. They got the dub, and moving now on to Jersey.
Yeah, and this is just it's I out of all the games this year, I think this game has really made me more encouraged more than anything. I think this is a simple fact of just the resolve of this team, just considering the fact that their back was against the wall in this matchup. Obviously, it was looking doomed, especially after that Montez Sweat penalty. And I was like, oh gosh, they're doomed to and then considering the fact that we were out of timeouts, I was like, oh boy, this it's like Minnesota all over again. I swear to you.
Yep.
I really thought this was Minnesota really all over again, especially after that Montez Sweat that penalty on Sweat, and I'm like, like this is Minnesota all over again. 0 timeouts, like, oh, we're doomed. But Kendall Fuller, well, obviously, Deron Payne making the batted pass and then turned it to the interception with Kendall Fuller. Great play, great heads up play, because that could have been definitely a Cordell Patterson pretty much walk off touchdown. It almost got to that point. But this is, and then just the elements too. And I think that's another key factor that we have. I think now we have a game that travels. And I always think when you're a good football team, and especially when you want to be successful, you got to have a game that travels. And meaning that saying like on the road, but as far as the different types of terrain, like in this case where it's raining for the most of the game, just cooler temperatures than normal. So well, not at cooler temperatures, but just in general, this is kind of like how this time of year, you're gonna have situations like we don't know how it's gonna be like in Jersey next week, or no, even when we go, we have home games New Year's Day against against the Browns, and then also with the Cowboys that following week. Even going to Santa Clara on Christmas Eve, those type of games make me like, regardless of the circumstance, I still think this team can win football games, and no matter the weather. So I was really impressed by them. Once again, the defense, like you said, the defense, they're now coming together. Just such a great unit, and everybody just stepped up. I love what Jamin Davis did. I think the fact that people was writing him off so early, and I think he's a great kind of story, kind of persevering. And Deron Payne, I think Deron Payne once again has shown himself week in and week out to be be a dominant defensive player. And it's one thing too where seeing that because, and that's another thing too where he was marred by a situation in Dallas, and now that's an afterthought, because his play has dictated that we should all just forget about it. And I'm glad that happened for him, because he's playing great football. Jonathan Allen once again leads us, and Montez Sweat getting that sack on Mariota earlier in the game. So I'm really encouraged by this team. I'm really to sit here to think, because obviously when we were here, October the 9th, it was doom and gloom. I mean, it was literally like, it was almost to a point where it's like, y'all ready? Y'all go back to U-Haul truck on January the 8th. Like, y'all think about winter plans already.
Right.
It was getting doom and gloom, but obviously, everything's turned around since that October 9th defeat to the Titans, and yeah, and it's crazy to think we're literally. John Ridgeway, if John Ridgeway didn't attack the center on a kickoff on a field goal attempt, I mean, this team literally could have won 7 out of the last 7 games. Yeah. And that just kind of put on John Ridgeway, but that was a critical play where the team didn't have no more timeouts, so that was like a defining play. So we still would have had the ball back and would have had somewhat of considerable time to at least potentially kick a field goal to at least go to overtime. So I'll say it like that. But we were one penalty away from potentially being 7-0 in the last 7 games. So but we're here at 7-5, and I'm just really encouraged of what they can. And this year is a lot different than last year, because I think last year, because we was almost in the same predicament last year where we were 6-6 going into Dallas. I think that Dallas game was December the 12th or something like that. I remember, it was December the 12th. And I think at that time we were 6-6 at that time. So this one's a little bit more different, I think, especially now because of the maturity of Taylor Heineken. I think even like we even talked about it, he has done something. He did some somewhat bonehead type plays, and I think they're just gimmies. But there's points in the game where it's like, okay, he gets it, and then sometimes like, all right, hey, he just let it loose, and sometimes, hey, it actually got to be controlled.
Yeah. Yeah, like that first on the first drive that instead of just taking the sack, he tried to kind of fling it
Yeah.
out to Antonio Gibson, which in
Yep.
real time it looked like a lateral.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, it by I think literally by it was as close to being a lateral without being a lateral as it could have been.
Yeah.
Literally only went 1 yard, but and then the interception to Michael Walker uh, late in the second quarter, right before the half ended. Shout out Michael Walker, Fresno State,
Yeah.
undrafted free agent, making a name for himself. Um, that why you would throw deep in a situation like that, you know the linebackers are going to play back. They're not in a full on prevent defense, but they're trying to they're definitely going to be playing back because they know you're going to throw it. You had I forgot how much time left, two timeouts. You're trying to get down the field, preferably, worst case scenario, a field goal. They know that you're going to try to throw it. Why throw it in that situation? I don't know, but yeah, but it. The thing I realized with Heineke is he's due for an interception or a fumble or a screw up at some point in the game. As long as he gets it out of the way early, doesn't really hurt us. The Vikings game, he played great the entire game. Made his mistake late. The interception costed us the game. If we're talking about being anything away from a 7 game win streak, it's that right there. That bonehead pick, and
Yeah.
there's a couple other things. Even Carson Wentz, the end zone, the goal line throw against the Titans.
Right.
We're one or two defensive stops away in the Lions game. If we just stopped them two times in the first half, that's it. Just two times. The offense played great in the second half, and we're able to come back and almost tie the game up. There's another win. We're looking at a potentially a true loss team right now.
Right. Right.
Like we're up there in the conversation with with the Eagles and the Dallas and the Vikings. Where
Yeah.
we're not fighting for a playoff spot. We're fighting for that round one bye.
Right.
It just goes to show how close this league is.
Yeah. And like you said, just to a point, right? Because those are really because I mean, obviously the Philly game week 3 and then the Dallas game week 4. Hey, those games we really were never in it.
Yeah.
But the other ones, you think yourself, right? Detroit, even though we were down, we were down 22 nothing, came back, but we made some necessary stops, but we didn't make enough stops at the end. And then, like you said, Tennessee. Yeah, that's another one. If you didn't throw the interception, that's another one where it's like, what would Taylor Heineke do? It would be WYDTH. Oh no! Wow. Okay. Okay. WW
WWHD.
WWHD. Okay. THD. Taylor Heineke, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, they doing this on the fly. So, but yeah, and that's why, and that's another thing too, where you just look at it, and then also shout out to B Rob, those violent runs, 105 rushing yards, and I'm telling you, that's where I think he was brought here for a reason. This is kind of what we thought was going to definitely be the coming of Brian Robinson having a game like this, knowing that he was there. He's here for this type of this ball carrying responsibility. And and that's the thing where it's just like you want that kind of guy. He's a dog. Like he's a point. Like you seen how a lot of it that second contact he was getting it. Like he was getting
Oh yeah.
and that's the thing where it's perfect, especially when you are in situations where you're like when you're trying to extend the drive. He's perfect for that because obviously the goal for us is to move the chains and keep the opposing offense on the field. And you have those opportunities, and and then we always talk about how now they're winning the battle of time possession,
Yep.
and getting him, and that's going to definitely have huge dividends for us down the road. But I just like the fact that he did what he did, 105 yards, his first 100 rushing yard game of the season. So I just love the fact that that he came out and he showed what we all knew, Brian Robinson could be.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, you know who the fact that you brought up time of possession. We won the time of possession game again.
Yep.
Washington leads the league in time of possession.
Right. Isn't that something?
That's
Isn't that
crazy.
something? That is so crazy. It's almost like, are y'all listening to us for real? Like, because I'm telling you, we hopped on that every single week. It's almost, I swear to you, like it's almost to a point. If you listen back to any episodes from the 2021 season, we always say how the game was lost. I like they only had a ball for like 25 minutes.
Mhm.
I forget it was one game where I think they had a ball for like 20 something minutes. And I'm like, you can't win football games like that.
And even not just that, it's
Yeah.
important to hold the ball for 35, 40 minutes a game.
Hmm.
I think today we had it 33 minutes and 9 seconds
See?
versus Atlanta 26 minutes and 51 seconds. Yes, we hold the ball for a long time, which is great, over half the game, but we're getting points nearly every drive on those
Right.
extended. We're not holding the ball
Right.
for not 7, 8, 9 minute drives and then punting or turnover on downs. It's 8, 9, 10 minute drives, and we're getting, even if it's just a field goal, we're still getting points, which is ultimately because you can have the ball 30, 40 minutes a game. If you're not scoring points, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, and especially how we thought about it last year because we knew this team offensively, they had to, at least get, take the opposing offense off the field
Yeah.
so you won't gash up your defense because we knew the defense was the strength of this team. Well, the front, the front, but that secondary was god awful last year. But I digress from that point. But yeah, and like you said, now they're getting points. They're at least getting to a point where they're kicking field goals. They're doing something with the ball. Like even in this game, because 19 points, but they still were chipping away at it with kicking field goals and what have you. So, and then obviously they missed one of the extra points. So this would have been a 20-13 game potentially. And considering the fact, you know, having those two field goals, you need those, they
Yeah.
points. So it's like, you need, when you have those opportunities, just go for it, especially when you have a team like in Atlanta. And it really just depends on our personnel as well, too. Like if you're not, this is great for a team that doesn't have a high octane offense. So, especially without, because I think Cal Pitts didn't play today.
Yeah, he did.
So, yeah, but big time, huge. Um, yeah, I know it's so funny to think they are number one in time of possession. I still trip off of that. I seen that, I was like, what? You got to be kidding me. But hey,
No.
it's how you win football games
Yeah, very true.
for sure. So we got to give out grades. What you got on the offense?
Give him a B.
Okay.
I think Taylor Heineke with those that one interception and kind of just it seems like he's playing a little too conservative sometimes, and I know we, especially me, if anybody has killed him for any times that he's taking shots down the field when he didn't need to. There are a couple plays where I feel like he could have ran it and probably got the first down. I think there was one time in the red zone I think he could have ran it and scored a touchdown, but he tried to throw it to the tight end. I forget who. I think it was Bates, and kind of it was behind him. Run game, a solid A. Brian Robinson, career high 105 yards on the day. 132 in the second half alone, I think. Or I'm sorry, as a team, had 176 rushing yards, 132 in the second half. Brian Robinson alone had 105 of those yards, 5.8 yards per carry average. I think offense, I definitely give a B. Defense, I'll give them a C. They struggled early on. They gave up over 100 rushing yards in the first half, which kind of put us like. And again, with that being the strength of this team, kind of it didn't feel good. It didn't sit right with me. Um, and then Tressway, the amazing punt, he gets an A. punt that just kind of died right at the 5. Great, and
Yep.
then way to take the hit. Knew he was going to
Yeah.
get hit at the end of the game.
Took it.
Way to just get the punt off, take the hit. Sell it a little bit, fall to the ground, get those 5 yards, and call it a day. Get us that 7th win, and so we can move on to the Giants.
Yeah, and it's funny when I seen Trustway foul, I was like, "Uh-oh, this game is over." I remember that. And I was like, "Yo, that is so crazy." Offense, I'm gonna give them a B minus. Obviously, Taylor Heineke, I think he had a solid game. Obviously, the 2 touchdowns, one to B Rob, and then John Bates, affectionately known as Jay Bizzle.
Jay Bizzle.
Jay Bizzle. So 314 total yards. Against this Atlanta Falcons team, it's acceptable. Another team, it might be a little bit different story, but we just keep it in context for today's game. I did like the fact, they rushed the ball really well, 176 total. Obviously, B Rob having 105 of those yards. The defense, I'm gonna give them a B minus as well. I just like the fact that it definitely would have been. It could have been. It definitely was bordering C minus D plus if it weren't for that huge play in the end.
Yeah,
because they were getting gashed on a lot of those plays, especially in that. And it's funny because we talked about it in the preview as far as Kadera Patterson was going to be like a problem, obviously because how it was to us last year. So I definitely thought, but to their credit, he had some good runs, but he didn't torch us like he did last year. Yeah. So at least, hey, we give credit on that one. And like Tressway, like he's he's almost like he's the Mark Mosley of our team. Like he literally, if you were giving out MVP to a punter, he literally would be the MVP. He would be just like how Mark Mosley was back in 1982. Like he's just putting those guys in, especially a team like Atlanta, who is not an offensive juggernaut. They're still a good team offensively, but to hold them and put them in positions where they have a long field to have, and that's going to be a key down the stretch. Having a guy like a Tressway who knows how to pin you back in your yard line. So, and all that's going to really do is just help the defense because that it's almost to a point where it's going to really help in essence for them to even cross the other side of the field to a point where you're going to have some long sustained drives. Like this is going to be a situation where they start at 35 and they about to be in opponent's territory at the first down. So I look at that as another key, and he hasn't disappointed us at all. So definitely Trustway. Yeah, Trustway is having a a special teams MVP type of year for us once again. Yeah. So, and it's funny how especially with this team, you really those type of things where you just notice even stuff like that. Like a lot of people don't really look at what the punter does, but especially with this team and how this personnel is, it's almost like it's kind of going hand in hand. Especially you seeing, how integral part of him putting the ball inside the 20 is crucial.
Yeah,
and we're definitely seeing that week in and week out. So since we've won, gotta give out game balls. Who you giving out this week game ball to?
Oh, the man with the big hat, Brian Robinson.
Yes, sir.
Running angry. He got hit. There was a one play, I think it was 3rd and 8. Gets a little screen pass, goes and squares up against the DB. DB hits him, or I think it was a linebacker. Gets a good hit on him. Goes back with the help of there was a defender behind Brian Robinson, kind of kept him upright, and he was able to push through for a first down. What he did to the DB on that first drive on that touchdown catch, he just embarrassed him. Like, if I was a DB, just go home. You didn't want it. Go sit
For sure.
down and enjoy the game from the locker room. He wasn't about that life at all. But
For
yeah,
sure.
definitely got to give it to Brian Robinson. About 105 yards career high. Good for him.
Yeah, definitely Brian Robinson, what he did, definitely huge shout out to B Rob. Great game. But I gotta give you just one to Ron Rivera win his 100th win in his NFL coaching career. So definitely he deserved it. And this is another one where it's just like, whoa boy, like those speeches, man. I see why these guys go, and that's why it's like I see why
Yeah.
they fight for this man week in and week out. I mean, I've always talked about, Ron Vera and his leadership qualities. It's like, he'll make a grown man run through a brick wall for him.
Yep.
And once again, this post game didn't disappoint as far as his speech, but yeah, he's great, man. Just definitely glad he was able to turn this thing around. I know a lot of, definitely at 1-5, well, at 1-4, it was there was some rumblings,
Oh yeah.
and it's funny. And I always said, and that moment reminded me a lot of his Carolina days. I remember in 2013 they lost to the Buffalo Bills by like a point. And now this ain't the Buffalo Bills that we know currently. This is from
Right.
like 9 years ago. This is probably like a JP Lossman led team, but I think might right around that time. And I think Ron Vera, I think he just got there like 2 years, and they were getting ready. And and at the time I was in Charlotte, just visiting family, and was listening to radio, and they were like, "Oh, get Ron Vera the hell out of here," and this and third. And that was saying he won Coach of the Year. So it's just like, yeah. So and he had a lot of those moments here in Washington, like get him the hell out
Oh
of
yeah.
here. But
Yeah.
hey, yeah,
I was saying that 6 weeks
yeah,
ago,
for
7 weeks ago.
sure, for
I
sure.
was
Oh,
ready
we
to
all
clean
yeah.
house.
Yeah, I mean because if you saw it 1-4, we know how the personnel is like, and especially in the fashion of how they lost, it's like I mean, yeah, I mean anybody in their right mind would have called for that, and I know he was feeling the pressure under that as well because obviously you can tell even when we beat the Bears, like how he went off. I'm the one that watched the analytics. I'm the one that watched the tape. I'm like, whoa, did we lose by 30 or did we win
Yeah.
by 4? I mean, did we win by 6? Like, I'm like, damn. And I remember that. I was like, I had to think to myself, like, I know we had a game last night. Did we lose?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, yo, well, that's wild. But yeah. So before we head out tonight, I found a topic. So up next, we have the New York Football Giants who are going up 95 and playing the New York Football Giants, man. You're just your overall thoughts of this game thus far, just kind of looking at it from a, you know, victory formation day, but kind of looking a little bit forward and for next Sunday.
I'm gonna channel my inner Jonathan Allen from last week. This is a good team win. It set us up nicely, and again, we control our own destiny from here. If we win out, we're in the playoffs. Um, but still, a lot of things got to get better. Going up against Saquon Barkley twice in 3 weeks, I think they just got to buckle down, especially that defense. The way the defense looked today, that run defense, I think it was kind of the blueprint. A lot of teams weren't running on the outside against this team, and that was their bread and butter. Daniel Jones isn't as elusive or as athletic as Marcus Mariota, but he can still run. So that's something you got to look out for. So, it's going to be a big game. If we don't win this one, have another one 2 weeks later. But obviously, you kind of want to just win out and give yourself the best chance to best playoff seeding possible.
For sure. Yeah, and this is some point where the bye week is actually we can see the light at the bye week at this point where you just look at this matchup, and that's funny. I always said this. I loved how the schedule matched up for, especially coming off a bye, because you want to have these two games kind of the two matchups with the Giants sandwiched together, where either or, where if you do win next Sunday, you make the adjustments and you kind of going against the same personnel versus, oh, well, we got to start off scratch with another opponent. No, we can study this opponent more, and kind of go back to the drawing board, even if we win or lose when we play them in 2 weeks. And then obviously we play them 2 weeks from, 3 weeks from today.
Yep.
But, well, I don't know. It might be a Saturday or Sunday. Hopefully, it probably be a Saturday, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But here's here nor there. But the simple fact of you can make those adjustments, and I think that's going to be a good thing for us. I think obviously with the Giants containing Saquon Barkley, and then also Daniel Jones is a run threat because obviously he gashed us last year. Obviously when we had him on that Thursday night game where he almost beat us again. So we got this is another divisional game. This is going to, like you said, if we just keep on winning, we control our destiny. And you just continue to win, there won't be no doubt. Like how we were scoreboard watching today, if we continue to win, we don't have to do this at all. And you don't have to worry about, if Seattle wins, or San Francisco, blah, 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 no. You just continue to win. You're at your spot.
Yeah. Do what you got to do. Take care of business, and the rest
win out.
Will work itself out.
Yep. And you just got to win out. But yeah. So we'll put a bow on this week's Commanders in the Chat pod. Rob, tell them where they can find you on social media and upcoming projects, what you got going on.
Y'all already know where you can find me, FNC Pod on Twitter, Football and Show Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. I'm making my move down to California later on this week. Ready to be out of this cold, wet, rainy weather. I wasn't made for this. But yeah, definitely just keep checking out Commanders in the Chat. Everybody at Off the Ball Network. You're ready once the season's over, which it's fast approaching. We're already getting into December. We've got what's it called? The draft coverage. All the draft stuff is going to start heating up, so just be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, man, and and good luck to your USC Trojans Friday night.
Thank you.
I
gotta make sure I'm actually home because I'm leaving Thursday morning.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta make sure that I'm actually home down in San Diego for that.
For sure, or at least
look. I told my wife the other day. I said, "Y'all so lucky. I love you guys because I ain't gotta be at my next command until January 15th." I was gonna stop, make a little detour in Vegas this Friday. I thought about it.
Yeah, put a little money on the Trojans,
No, the game. I was gonna go to the game. It's at Allegiant Stadium.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just you don't take advice from a single guy. No. You could just now I'm gonna say I'm a single guy. I cannot give a married man no advice.
One thing I learned in boot camp, and it stuck with me. Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission.
For sure. It's like to me, this is like do not try this at home, like or like objects appear bigger, like like the side mirrors when they say like the objects might appear closer than what you see. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, I will not lend my personal take on going to Allegiant Stadium or not. So do what's best for you. Do what's best for you in your home. So at that point, obviously Commanders in the Chat, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram under Commanders ITC. And also check out the Couch Coach Live podcast. Pretty much anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, we're there. And yeah, man. So this wraps up a victory post-game show, and definitely looking forward to our matchup against the New York Football Giants, man. So we'll catch you guys on the next episode 61, and we're out.